The Simpsons has been on TV for 36 seasons with over 770 episodes. But here's something wild. They've only permanently killed off about a dozen characters. And some of these deaths, they're so dark, so controversial, and so emotionally devastating that they literally changed the entire show forever. So let's dive into every single character who actually stayed dead in Springfield. Let's start with the death that kicked everything off. Back in 1995, nobody expected a cartoon to hit them with real emotions. The Simpsons was this funny show about a crazy family, and then boom, they killed off Bleeding Gums Murphy. Now if you don't remember him, he was Lisa's jazz mentor from way back in season 1. This cool saxophone player who hung out on the bridge and actually saw Lisa's talent when nobody else did. He was like her musical soulmate, the one person who truly understood her love for jazz. Well, in the season 6 episode called Round Springfield, Lisa finds out he died.
What happened to Mr. Murphy?
I'm sorry, he passed away.
Just like that, off-screen, they didn't even show it happening. He apparently had a heart attack and was gone. Lisa goes to visit him in the hospital, and they have this beautiful moment where they jam together one last time, and then he's just dead. The funeral scene absolutely wrecked people. Lisa plays her saxophone as a tribute, while his spirit appears in the clouds alongside Mufasa, Darth Vader, and James Earl Jones. Yeah, they made a joke out of it because James Earl Jones voiced all 3 characters, but underneath that joke was real grief. This was the first time The Simpsons showed that death could be permanent, that people you love can just disappear from your life. It set the template for every death that came after. Cartoons weren't supposed to make you feel this way, but here we were, crying over a jazz musician in a show about yellow people. But if Bleeding Gums Murphy's death was emotional, Maude Flanders' death was straight up absurd. Picture this. It's the year 2000, and the Flanders are at a speedway watching a race. Homer's being his usual self, and someone fires t-shirt cannons into the crowd, and the t-shirts that were aimed at Homer smack Maude right in the chest instead. She falls backwards over a 20-foot drop with apparently no safety barrier, and she's dead. They killed off Ned Flanders' wife with promotional t-shirts. Now here's the thing that makes this even crazier. This wasn't some planned storyline. This happened because of a pay dispute. The voice actress Maggie Roswell was flying from Denver to LA every week to record her lines, and she asked Fox to raise her pay from $2,000 per episode to $6,000 to cover the hassle. Fox offered her a $150 raise instead, so she quit, and the writers were like, well, I guess we're killing Maude then. And they did it in the most ridiculous way possible. Fans were absolutely furious, not just because they loved Maude, but because it felt cheap and disrespectful. The death was played for laughs, in a way that felt wrong. Ned became a widower, and his entire character changed. He went from this annoyingly perfect neighbor to a lonely guy struggling to raise 2 kids alone. The show tried to give him other relationships, but nothing ever felt right. Maude's death left this permanent hole in the show, and it all happened because of $4,000. Now let's talk about the death that split the entire fan base right down the middle. Frank Grimes. If you haven't seen Homer's Enemy from 1997, you need to understand that this episode is completely different from anything else The Simpsons ever did. Frank Grimes, or Grimy as he liked to be called, was a guy who had the worst luck imaginable. Abandoned as a child, worked his way through life the hard way, put himself through school, and barely scraped together a decent job at the nuclear plant. He represented every person who works their butt off and gets nothing in return. Then he meets Homer. Homer Simpson, who has a beautiful house, a loving family, has been to space, won a Grammy, and somehow keeps this job despite being completely incompetent. Grimes couldn't handle it. He kept seeing Homer mess up and get rewarded for it.
God, I've had to work hard every day of my life, and what do I have to show for it?
He worked hard and got nothing. Homer did nothing and got everything. It drove him completely insane. The breaking point came when Homer entered a contest for kids and won, beating actual children with his stupid model of the power plant. Grimes snapped. He started running around the plant mocking Homer, pretending to be him.
Now I'm returning to work without washing my hands. But it doesn't matter because I'm Homer Simpson.
Then he grabbed high-voltage wires and electrocuted himself to death. And at his funeral, Homer falls asleep and talks in his sleep, and everyone laughs. This episode is brutal. Some people call it the best Simpsons episode ever because it's so honest about how unfair life is. Other people absolutely hate it because it made Homer into a villain without consequences. Some writers even blame this episode for turning Homer from lovable idiot into the jerk he became in later seasons. Frank Grimes died, proving a point that nobody wanted to hear. But nothing, and I mean nothing, hits as hard as the death of Mona Simpson, Homer's mom. This one's different because it's not absurd or controversial, it's just heartbreaking. Mona, voiced by Glenn Close, abandoned Homer when he was a kid, but she didn't leave because she was a bad mom. She left because she destroyed Mr. Burns' biological weapons laboratory and had to go into hiding from the law. She was a hippie activist who chose saving lives over raising her son, and that choice haunted both of them forever. Throughout the series, she comes back a few times. Every reunion is beautiful and painful because she always has to leave again. She can't stay. She's still wanted by the authorities. Homer keeps losing his mom over and over. Then in 2008, in an episode called Mona Leaves, she comes back one more time. She says her activist days are over and she's staying for good, but Homer's so used to her leaving that he can't handle it anymore. He tells her he'll never forgive her because he's tired of feeling hurt and abandoned. That night, Mona tries to explain that she's changed, but Homer refuses to listen. Later, Homer feels guilty about how he treated her and makes her an apology card. He goes downstairs to give it to her and finds her sitting by the fireplace, completely still and silent. He thinks she's just not talking to him because she's upset. He even asks if she's asleep. That's when it hits him. She died right there, waiting for him to come back and forgive her, and he never got the chance. He never got to say he was sorry. He never got to tell her he understood. The guilt destroys him completely. At her funeral, following her final wishes, Homer has to scatter her ashes in a specific spot at a specific time. Turns out, even in death, Mona sabotaged one of Mr. Burns' evil plans. She spent her whole life fighting for what was right, and her last act was one final middle finger to Burns. This death wasn't for shock value or because of behind-the-scenes drama. It was a real exploration of grief, regret, and the complicated relationship between a mother and son who never got enough time together. Now let's speed through some of the forgotten characters who actually died but nobody really talks about. There's Alice Glick, the mean old lady who lived in Springfield. She got killed by a robotic seal toy in what was definitely a Furby parody gone wrong. Then there's Fat Tony, the mobster who had a heart attack and died right in Homer's arms. But here's the weird part. They immediately replaced him with his identical cousin, Fat Tony, who then became Fat Tony because he ate too much. So did Fat Tony really die if his exact replacement took over? And most recently, in 2024, they killed off Larry the Barfly. You know Larry? Actually, no you don't. Nobody did. He was just a background guy at Moe's Tavern for decades. When he died, they revealed that he considered Homer his best friend, even though Homer had no idea who he was. It's this sad meta-commentary on loneliness and how we ignore people right in front of us. Larry died alone, despite being surrounded by people every single day. Then there's Edna Krabappel, Bart's teacher, the cynical chain-smoking educator, who eventually married Ned Flanders after Maude died. Her death is different from all the others because it wasn't planned. In 2013, her voice actress Marcia Wallace passed away in real life. The Simpsons made the decision to retire Edna out of respect rather than recasting her. They never explained how she died in the show. They just showed Ned as a widower again, back to being alone. It wasn't until 2021 that they gave Edna a proper tribute using archived dialogue. The episode revealed something beautiful. Despite all her cynicism and frustration, Edna actually believed in Bart. She saw his potential when everyone else just saw a troublemaker. She cared about him, and he cared about her. Her death reminded everyone that behind every running gag and recurring character is someone real, someone who mattered. The show lost something when Marcia Wallace died, and they chose to honor that loss instead of pretending it didn't happen. So there you have it, every major character who actually stayed dead in Springfield. And if you want to see the saddest Simpsons episodes, check out this video.